The chandelier glistened above, glasses clinked, and the millionaire's dinner party seemed flawless until the doors opened. A hush swept through the room as his wife stepped in. Her dark skin, elegant dress, and steady gaze silenced the laughter. One guest muttered under his breath, "Wait, that's his wife?" Another scoffed louder, "How could he bring her?" The millionaire's smile faltered, his hand trembling as he reached for his glass. But it was already too late. Whispers spread like fire, and every eye burned with judgment. What happened next shook the entire room. Forever. On paper, Richard Harrow had it all: wealth, status, and the kind of power that made people lean in when he spoke. But what most of society never saw was the woman who stood at the center of his world, Amelia. She wasn't just his wife, she was his anchor. A brilliant teacher, warm-hearted and unapologetically proud of her roots, Amelia carried herself with a grace that made Richard's mansion feel like home rather than a fortress of wealth. To their small circle of true friends, the couple's love was obvious. But to the elite circles, Richard moved in, business magnates, politicians, and aristocrats. Amelia was a secret. Not because he was ashamed of her, but because he knew the world they lived in. One careless introduction could ignite whispers that spread faster than truth ever could. Still, Amelia tried to make peace with it. "Richard," she would say softly, brushing his hand, "we can't keep hiding forever." "They'll find out sooner or later," he would sigh, squeezing her palm. "I just want to protect you, to protect us." And so life carried on, lavish dinners, quiet mornings, love letters tucked in bookshelves. But beneath the polished surface, a storm was gathering. Richard's carefully built walls of secrecy were about to crack. The moment Amelia walked into that glittering dining hall, nothing would ever be the same. The moment Amelia stepped into the glittering dining hall, silence struck harder than any insult. Her gown shimmered under the chandelier, but it wasn't the dress that caught attention. It was her presence. Heads tilted. Forks paused. Laughter evaporated into a tense, suffocating stillness. "Who is she?" one woman whispered, her pearl necklace trembling against her throat. Richard straightened, voice steady but brittle. "My wife." The word cut through the air, sharp and undeniable. A ripple of gasps followed, and then the first dagger. "You mean to tell us," a man at the far end of the table sneered, "that all this time you've been hiding her?" His lip curled. "A man of your stature." "With her?" Amelia's jaw tightened, but she stood tall, her hand brushing Richard's for strength. "She has a name," Richard snapped, anger flashing. "Amelia." But his defense only fanned the fire. Another guest chuckled coldly. "Imagine the scandal when the papers find out. A Harrow married to—" He didn't finish. He didn't have to. The venom in his tone said it all. Whispers spread like wildfire. Unfit. Embarrassment. Not one of us. Amelia could feel the weight of every stare pressing against her skin, stripping her dignity piece by piece. A woman near her leaned in just far enough to hiss, "You don't belong here. You'll never belong here." Richard rose from his seat, his fist tightening around his glass. "Enough," his voice thundered. But the room did not quiet. Instead, it buzzed louder, mocking, jeering, feeding on the spectacle. Amelia whispered, trembling, "Richard, stop. They'll twist this against you." But the night was spiraling. One guest, emboldened by the crowd, slammed his palm on the table. "Tell us, Harrow, was it pity? Or just lust? Because it sure as hell wasn't pride." The words sliced through Richard like glass. He opened his mouth to fight back, but before he could, another voice rose from the crowd, colder than all the rest. "If you think she can stand beside us as an equal, you're gravely mistaken." Amelia's hand slipped from his. Her heart pounded so loud she could barely hear the rest. She forced herself to breathe, to remain upright, but inside, a storm raged. This wasn't just about her. This was about every room she had ever walked into, every glance that lingered too long, every door that silently closed before she reached it. For Richard, it was a nightmare he had long feared, now unfolding in real time. He had kept her hidden, believing secrecy would shield her. But the truth was clear now. His silence had only prepared the crowd to turn against her. Still, Amelia refused to bow her head. She looked around the table, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "You look at me and see disgrace. But I see men and women who fear losing their grip on power. You cannot erase me." The table erupted. Some laughed harshly. Others recoiled as if her defiance were poison. Richard's allies shrank back, unwilling to risk their own reputations. And just as Richard tried to steady his wife, a servant slipped him a folded note, quiet, urgent. His face drained of color as he read the words scrawled inside. Amelia noticed, whispering, "What is it?" Richard's voice cracked as he met her eyes. They've already gone to the press." The room seemed to close in. The whispers, the stares, the venomous smiles, they were nothing compared to what was waiting outside those mansion doors. And neither of them was ready for the storm that was about to break. The doors of the mansion burst open, and in swept the press, cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward like weapons. Reporters shouted over one another, their words slicing through the air. "Mr. Harrow, is it true you've been hiding a black wife?" "Amelia, how does it feel to be paraded as a scandal? Do you think society will ever accept you?" The crowd of guests, moments ago smug and whispering, now turned hungry, feeding off the chaos, their faces lit by the strobe of cameras. Amelia felt the room spin, every flash blinding her, every question cutting deeper. One guest sneered loud enough for all to hear, "Now the world sees the truth. Your empire will crumble, Richard, and she'll drag you down with her." Richard moved to shield Amelia, but it was Amelia who stepped forward. Her voice trembled, but her words were sharp. "Do you hear yourselves? You speak of scandal as if love were a crime. You ask if society will accept me. But the real question is, how long will you cling to your hatred?" The room stilled. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then a glass shattered, hurled deliberately at the ground near her feet. The sharp crack echoed, and gasps filled the air. A woman's voice rang out, venomous, "You'll never belong here. Not now, not ever." Tears burned Amelia's eyes, but she refused to look away. She stood in the shards, her reflection fractured on the marble floor. The guests leaned back, waiting for her to break. But instead, she straightened her shoulders and spoke again, louder this time. "You can try to silence me. You can smear my name. But the truth will always outlast your hatred." And with every camera rolling, every lens capturing her defiance, Amelia knew there was no going back. The world wasn't just watching. It was about to decide whose side it would take. The party ended in ruins. Guests slipped out under the glare of cameras, eager to escape association. Richard's empire trembled as headlines blared the next morning. Millionaire's secret black wife revealed, society in uproar. But while Richard watched his name dragged through the mud, Amelia found something he had never given her, a voice in the open. Interviews requested her side. Young women wrote letters, saying they finally saw someone who looked like them stand tall against cruelty. The very shame the elite tried to use against her became her strength. Still, the scars ran deep. Behind closed doors, Richard broke down. "I thought hiding you would keep you safe," he admitted, his voice cracked with regret. Amelia held his hand gently. "You weren't hiding me to protect me, Richard. You were hiding me to protect yourself. And now the world knows the truth. The truth. That was the wound, and also the beginning of healing. Because Amelia's story was not hers alone. It echoed through centuries of silenced voices, of people told they were unfit, less than, or not enough. It was the reminder that racism isn't just an ugly word from the past, it's alive, lurking in polished halls and whispered conversations, waiting to strip dignity from those who dare to stand where others think they don't belong. But Amelia stood anyway, and the world had to look. So the question remains, how many more Amelias must endure the sting of prejudice before change isn't forced by scandal, but embraced by choice? How many more truths must be dragged into the light before dignity is no longer up for debate? If this story moved you, share it, because silence only protects prejudice. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Amelia's place?